There I go messing with that microphone after a lengthy sound check. I do that on a regular basis. Welcome! Welcome to the Be Rescued Wellness Show. I am your host, the lovable Mo Wolf, the furry and fuzzy Mo Wolf, as it were. I need a haircut. This is the show where we talk about all things health, wellness, and beautiful living related. This is the most positive, inspiring, and quickest 30 minutes on the internet. You have tuned into the right place, my friend. This is where we discuss all those things that are of importance to you and your family's health. This program is brought to you by the good folks, my family's company, Be Rescued Propolis Care and Be Energized Raw Bee Pollen Products. This is the Be Rescued Propolis Rescue Balm right here. This stuff, as you see, I use it. This stuff here is excellent for all things pain related with muscles and joints. It's excellent for anything topical. I recommend it to my patients on a regular basis. That said, I am not a doctor, as it were, MD or DM, whatever they are. MD, DM. No, that's a Robitussin. I am neither a Robitussin nor am I a doctor, and I've never played a Robitussin on television. I do practice traditional Chinese medicine, however, and we'll be, in the next few weeks, we'll be telling you more about that. This week, Mr. Sadler, are you ready? Are you ready to be wowed? Julius, are you sitting on the edge of your seat? This week, we are talking about sugar. Yes, sugar. I know, everybody's whipping boy. Nobody likes sugar nowadays. Why is everybody else picking on me? Sugar! And the reason I brought this up is because on a website called medicalnewstoday.com, yesterday, October 24th, 2013, they posted an article called High Blood Sugar Levels Linked to Memory Loss. It's a fantastic, very fascinating article written by Honor Whitman. One way or the other, I'm going to mispronounce your name. Hey, it's a tradition. When have we ever pronounced an author's name? When have I ever pronounced an author's name correctly? Herman Melville? Anyway, Honor wrote this article for Medical News Today, and let me just read to you. New research suggests that people with high blood sugar levels, even those who do not have diabetes, mind you, may have an increased risk for developing cognitive impairment. This is according to a study published in the Journal of Neurology. Now, basically what they've done here is they've studied people, and the article goes into it and discusses how they set up their research, and they weaned out anybody that might have type 2 diabetes. They weaned out anybody that were drinking more than 3.5 servings of alcohol per day. They weaned out those people who were already showing cognitive impairment. But they analyzed 143 people. Now, that's a pretty significant study. Most studies are considered acceptable if they've got 33 people that they've studied. Well, this studied 143 people who were free of diabetes or even pre-diabetes. These were, by and large, healthy people. And what they found was that as the blood glucose levels increased with these folks, their memory decreased. The participants underwent blood glucose tests and were required to carry out memory tests. One of the tests required subjects to recall a list of 15 words 30 minutes after hearing them. The researchers also carried out scans of the participants' brains in order to measure the size of the hippocampus, a region of the brain linked to memory. Now, what is the hippocampus? Julius, would you show them what a hippocampus is not? This right here, my friends, is not a hippocampus. This dude hanging out on the local college community campus, that's not a hippocampus. Julius, would you thou show them that's not a hippocampus either? Would you show them what a hippocampus really is in the brain? This snazzy, colorful drawing demonstrates where the hippocampus is. Now, it's not sitting out there on the side of the brain. It's actually buried within the material of the brain. But the hippocampus is that bluish turquoise horseshoe shape type structure that when you actually dissect it from the body itself, you actually end up with a structure that looks very much like a seahorse. Now, the purpose, the functions of the hippocampus are generally accepted to be one of three things. Well, actually, all of these three things. It's generally accepted to be part of the brain that regulates and stores memories. It's thought to be that part of the brain that regulates your inhibitions. It's also part of the brain that helps regulate your proprioception, where your body is in time and space. That's what the hippocampus is. Now these good people have found that, the results showed that participants who had lower blood sugar levels obtained higher scores on the memory test compared to those with higher blood sugar levels. In the word recall test, the researchers found, now this is interesting, pay attention. The researchers found that remembering fewer words was linked to higher blood sugar levels. They break it down, stating that an increase of 7 units of measure of the glucose marker in the blood correlated to recalling 2 fewer words. So in other words, as the glucose increased by 7 units, the word retention dropped by 2 words. Glucose increased by 7, memory drops by 2. That's pretty staggering. And this was just based off of blood glucose level. Now, clinically, this is according to Agnes Fluhl of, I'm going to get it wrong, so I'm just going to say a University of Medicine in Berlin. The study author wrote, clinically, even if your blood sugar levels are normal, lower blood sugar levels are better for your brain in the long run with regard to memory functions as well as memory-relevant brain structures like the hippocampus. There's that hippo again. No, it's not. It's not this hippo. It's this hippo. Clinically, even if your blood sugar levels are normal, lower blood sugar levels are better for your brain in the long run with regard to memory functions as well as memory-relevant brain structures like the hippocampus. Scientifically, we were able to shed further light on the mechanisms mediating these effects. Diffuser tension imaging measurements demonstrated that not only volume of the hippocampus, but also microstructural integrity is lower if blood sugar levels are higher. So, volume, the actual structural shape, the structure of the hippocampus changes with increased blood glucose. Furthermore, the researchers say their research suggests that changes in lifestyle strategies looking at improving glucose levels long term could be promising strategy to prevent cognitive decline in aging. These findings are important because they indicate that even in healthy, non-diabetic, non-impaired glucose-tolerant individuals, lifestyle choices that tend to lower blood glucose levels in young and old individuals should be recommended, Dr. Flohl said. These include, for example, avoidance of obesity, particularly in midlife, consuming a diet rich in fibers, vegetables, proteins, and whole grain products, and undertaking physical activity on a regular basis. Has it dawned on anybody yet that whenever we read some of these studies, they always have two factors that are very similar in these studies in the conclusion to how to better your life, how to increase the quality of your life, how to increase the length of your life? It always comes down to two factors: diet and exercise. The two things that nobody wants to hear. So, according to this study, blood glucose levels directly affect the hippocampus of the brain. Blood glucose levels directly affect the hippocampus of the brain. Now, let's go on to this interesting paper. This was a paper published in July of 2006. It's called Hippocampus and Amygdala Morphology and Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. And it's written by Plesson, Banzal, Zhu, Whiteman, Amat, Quackenbush, Martin, Durkin, Blair, Royal, Hugdull, Peterson. All of these people, Columbia College of Physicians and Surgeons, and the New York State Psychiatric Institute. So this is a major study. Hippocampus and amygdala morphology and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. We were just talking about the effects of high blood glucose levels on the hippocampus. Now let's look at this. They studied 114 individuals aged 6 to 18 years of age, 51 with combined type ADHD, and 63 healthy controls. Okay. The results were pretty interesting. Let me just read the conclusion, otherwise it gets wordy and words that have too many syllables, and I don't want to have to sound them out. The conclusion: the enlarged hippocampus in children and adolescents with ADHD may represent a compensatory response to the presence of disturbances in the perception of time, temporal processing, example, delayed aversion, and stimulus seeking associated with ADHD. Disrupted communication between the amygdala and orbital frontal cortex may contribute to behavioral disinhibitions, and other findings suggest impairment of the limbic system in the pathophysiology of attention deficit hyperactive disorder. Let me translate this. Children with and adolescents with ADHD had enlarged hippocampi. They had actual brain structural changes. They exhibited it's possible that this change in the structure of the brain may be compensation in the body for these behavioral changes, the temporal processing, the poor proprioception, the delay of aversion. Remember what the hippocampus function is? The hippocampus functions were memory, proprioception, and inhibitions, right? Well, we've also read the study that suggested that the hippocampus in the brain is very, very sensitive to higher glucose levels in the blood. So, is it possible that there's a correlation? Is it possible that there's a correlation between increased glucose levels in the blood and the behavioral problems that we seem to be seeing running rampant throughout our nation? The attention deficit disorder, the attention deficit hyperactive disorder. Just scan the headlines of any newspaper and you are going to see some very frightening headlines. People doing unspeakable things. Children doing unspeakable, incredible things. I mean this in a negative sense. Is it possible that there's a correlation between the amount of sugar that's in our diet and the, entropy of our society, the entropy of our society's behavior? Is it possible there's a correlation? I am submitting to you, the viewer of the Be Rescued Wellness Show, I'm submitting to you that there probably is a connection. Now, people have always been nuts. People have always been crazy. People have always done dumb things. People have always been capable of doing some of the most unspeakable evil. However, when we are building the foundation of our diet, our food supply, on something like, let's pick on high fructose corn syrup again. When we're building the foundation of our food, our diet as a nation, on sugars, high fructose corn syrup, sucrose, maybe we're setting ourselves up for failure. Let me ask you, how much sugar do you eat? How much sugar are your children eating? How much sugar have you spent your lifetime consuming? How much sugar is in the diet of your elderly parents? We've got rising levels of dementia. We've got rising levels of cognitive impairment in our elderly people. We've got rising levels of behavioral problems in our youth, rising levels of ADD, ADHD. We've got rising levels of diabetes. We've got rising levels of metabolic syndrome. We've got rising levels of heart disease. All of the bad is increasing. What's changed? Well, let me tell you. In 1822, this according to an article in Forbes magazine from August 30th of 2012. In 1822, the average American consumed 45 grams of sugar. 45 grams of sugar is just over 11 and a quarter teaspoons of sugar. In a week, the average American consumed 11 and a quarter teaspoons of sugar in a week. Any idea how much sugar is in the average soda pop? 10 teaspoons of sugar is in an average soda pop. So in 1822, the average American was consuming 1 can of soda pop, the sugar in 1 can of soda pop, over a week's time. Today, in 2012, you had 765 grams of sugar, which works out to just under 200 teaspoons of sugar consumed every 5 days in the United States by the average American. The average American consumes over 200 teaspoons of sugar every week, every 5 days. We're exercising less. Back in 1822, the average American was doing a lot of exercise. They were working like dogs. They were just basic survival was a lot more work. Had to go out and pump your own water. You didn't just go up to the tap or go up to the refrigerator. No, you had to work. You would go out and you'd split your wood. You'd have to cut your wood, haul it back in, work with the animals to bring this stuff back in. You'd had to take care of your animals. Your body was moving. You were building muscle. You were exercising just to survive. Did you know in 1822 there were hardly any people out there in the United States that were, you know what, in 1822, I don't think anybody had a membership to the YMCA. In 1822, I don't think anybody in the United States had a membership to Planet Fitness or any other athletic club. Do you know why? Because they didn't need it. Because they were exercising. Will I exercise? I do my little... No. You really don't. And even if you are very active, what are you putting in your body? Are you putting in your body the average sugar consumption of 130 pounds of sugar every year? 130 pounds of sugar. What's that work out to? 130 pounds of sugar divided by 360. That works up to just under a third of a pound of sugar, just over a third of a pound of sugar per day in this country that we're sucking down. And we wonder why diabetes is through the roof. We're wondering why all of these metabolic syndromes, through all of these problems are just out of control. Well, here's why. Well, here's a cause. Here's a very probable cause. This is a smoking gun in the room. This is that big hippo in the room. Julius, put that guy up there again. If you had this guy in your living room and someone came in and they said, "Oh my goodness, what's this mess? Why is the sofa caved in? Why is there walls knocked over?" Well, it's probably because you had that guy in your room. No, not this guy. Here we have an increase in an ingredient of our food that's just astronomical. Here we have an increase in disease that's boggling everybody's mind. You've got obesity rates going through the roof. We have children running around completely morbidly obese. Now, percentage-wise, yeah, you're always going to have some of that. But not like what we have today. Not like this. It doesn't have to be like this. No! This blew my mind when I read this in the Forbes magazine. The average child in the United States, back in last year, the average child was consuming 32 teaspoons of sugar per day. Now, we've already seen that sugar, that glucose in the bloodstream, literally changes the structure of your brain. Sugar. I practice traditional Chinese medicine. When we look at sugar, we'll often look at it as, That's hot. That's putting heat into the body. That's inflammation. Well, look at some of the things that sugar's been linked to. Refined sugar has been linked to, number one, obesity, hypertension, high blood pressure, hypoglycemia, depression, headaches, fatigue, nervous tension, aching limbs, diabetes, acne, skin irritation, stiffening of the arteries, violent behavior. And you know what? Which ones of those in Chinese medicine can be related to heat problems? Obesity, nervous tension, hypertension, aching limbs, diabetes, high blood pressure, acne, depression, headache, fatigue, skin irritation, stiffening of the arteries, violent behavior. They can all be linked to some sort of heat, either an excess or a deficiency type heat. We wonder why we're out of control with our weight in this country. And we've got children consuming 32 teaspoons of sugar per day. Did you know, let's put it another way, the average American, just from the added sugar in their diet, the added sugar, they're consuming 500 calories every day on average. That's the equivalent of 10 strips of bacon, the calorie equivalent. Well, why are we so prone to sucking down all this sugar? Why is it that we can't break this cycle? Well, it's because sugar is addictive. Sugar's highly addictive. In fact, some suggest that sugar might be as addictive as good old cocaine. No, I don't think the Colombia drug lords are going to be changing their crop anytime soon. We're going to stop planting the coca leaves and we're going to start planting the sugar cane. No, that's not going to happen. If America's children were consuming 32 ounces of alcoholic beverage every day, there'd be people going to jail. If America's children were consuming 32 teaspoons of rat poison every day, arsenic, people would be going to jail. 32 teaspoons a day. That's what our kids are on average eating. So that's the average. That means that kids like mine that don't get a lot of sugar, someone else is having to double their sugar consumption just to keep that average up there. You want to change your life? You want optimum performance in your body, in your mind? You want your kids to be doing better in school? You want your kids to be behaving better? You want better performance in your family? Better relationship in your family? Very simple. Very simple. Get rid of the poison in your diet. Get rid of the sugars. Maybe we should all be looking back to 1822, when the average American consumed 45 grams of sugar in a week. Awfully hard to do it. Gonna have to do a lot of home cooking. But you know what? There's an old saying, garbage in, garbage out. You put garbage into your body, the output is going to be garbage. You put garbage into your brain. I don't care if it's sugar, I don't care if it's entertainment. You put garbage in there, and what are you going to get? You're going to get garbage. You want optimum performance for you? You want optimum performance for your family? Not just in the now, but in the long term. Start feeding your family the right, good, clean foods. We've talked about the benefits of whole raw foods. We've talked about the benefits of eating the bee-energized raw bee pollen. The music is playing. Julius is pointing her finger at me. shaking it, waggling it. We're out of time. I want to thank you for joining us for today's wellness webcast, the Be Rescued Wellness Show. On behalf of all of us here at Little Honeys, the Little Honeys family, till next week, be well.